This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to the Star Wars Canon Podcast. May the Force be with you.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast, episode 68. We're almost to 70. We're getting there. Welcome to episode 68. I am your host, Brian Miller, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join me to talk about our favorite thing in the world, yet again, Star Wars. And finally, the prodigal son returns. I have got with me from across the pond, straight from Cairo, Egypt. I've got Mr. Usef Waly with me. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good. Thank you for the lovely intro, my man. It's been a long time. I've really missed being on the show. Had a lot of personal problems, and I do appreciate you, genuinely just being thoughtful and considerate about it and mentioning it to me. And some kind messages popped up on Facebook as well. So thank you for that, everyone. And yes, I'm really excited to talk about Star Wars. A lot has been happening. It's extremely exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Extremely. This is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. As we keep saying, I know, but we mean it. Like it's really, really interesting.
Always
it's really cool.
a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It's especially,
always a great
especially right now. And so I'm really glad you finally were able to hop on. I've felt very lonely doing the podcast by myself, and so I'm really glad to have you back, man. And we finally got the crew back together. That's great. And maybe here in the next couple weeks we can get everybody together, do a full panel again with Steven and JG, see if we can get everybody's schedules to line up and do a full panel episode again. I want to.
We got a lot to talk about and a lot to look forward to with Celebration coming up.
Oh yeah, and you know with Celebration, I think it'd be really cool to get the guys on anyway, and
Exactly.
kind of talk about everything that's happening and we're getting a crap load of announcements, dude. We're getting so much stuff this year at Celebration. It's going to be great. So we're going to talk about all that here in a little bit. So this week, I thought since Usef was joining us, I went and looked at some mailbag questions. And a lot of the mailbag questions were about the main news stories that I had picked out that we were going to talk about. So I decided we're just going to do the mailbag questions. I've got, I think, 7 questions picked out this week. So this is going to be a little bit of a mailbag episode. Excuse me for a second too, because I'm coming off of a respiratory thing, and so I'm still got the cough, and I can't shake it. So please bear with me while we're getting through this. But so I figured we would just do some mailbag questions, and get into it and talk about some Star Wars. But before we do, real quick, I wanted to let everybody know about May 6th. Mark your calendars. On May 6th, I'm going to be doing a 24-hour live stream from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we're going to be playing Jedi Fallen Order, and when we finish it, if we finish it, we're going to be moving into Survivor, which comes out the week before. But this 24-hour live stream, we're going to be taking donations to help raise awareness and prevent veteran suicide. It's something that means a lot to me and something that hits pretty close to home. And the way we're going to be doing that is behind me, I've got a whole bunch of hardback novels that I've bought over the years. I've got everything from A New Dawn up to, I think, Light of the Jedi. And so if you donate over a certain amount during that live stream, you'll get to choose which books are still available. You'll get to choose which novel you'd like for me to send you as a thank you for your donation. I think it's a great way to get these books into the hands of people who will appreciate them, and they're just, so they won't just sit here and collect dust. And so that's what we're doing on May 6th. So mark your calendars. I'm very excited about it. I can't wait. So with that out of the way, what do you say we talk some Star Wars, Usef? Let's get into it. That's what everybody's actually here
Can't wait.
for.
Let's get into it. Yep.
So, like I said, we've got 7 questions picked out this week, and there's 7 really good questions. And it's stuff that I really do want to talk about. So let's just get right into it. Question number 1 this week comes from Jesse Burns. And Jesse says, "Hey, Brian and Usef, what are some of your predictions for Celebration?" Thanks for sending in the question. And yeah, this is one of those things we were going to talk about anyway. And so when I saw the mailbag question, I thought, we'll just throw the mailbag question up and we'll do it that way. So, Usef, Celebration is a week away. And so what are some
Yeah, I
things,
mean,
what are
I
some
mean,
things
it's
you think we're going to be getting?
I mean, it's important. Firstly, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. We could talk about Mando, we could talk about other shows, but it's important to talk about Celebration because we could always talk about Mando when season ends. We can always talk about these other, any other content which we're getting, which we will be talking about. But it's extremely important to talk about Celebration, is because lately it feels like there's been a lack of concrete vision for Star Wars in the next few years, let's say. Because in the past, we've always, we knew there were shows coming out potentially. Yeah, are they getting an Obi-Wan show or not? Or we always had movies to look forward to. Now, all of a sudden, there's no movies confirmed. And we keep hearing rumors and getting news of directors pulling out and writer changes and stuff. So hopefully we're going to be getting confirmation about the next few movies. I just want to make sure that it's absolutely, for sure. I think there's another question about this. There's a few shows which I'm really extremely looking forward to. So that's really what I'm hoping to get, is like a reassurance is what I'm hoping to get out of Celebration. Some actual concrete information about the next upcoming movies and shows and when they'll be released. I can't believe that Marvel is going ahead with like the next 10 years of movies already announced. And here we are in Star Wars, and we have nothing close to that.
Not yet.
We have a few shows which we know are coming, but nowhere near enough. And I know that Celebration should be everything, not just the shows, but the actors, some actors, the video games, all of that. I'm really excited for the video games as well. The word about the EA game coming up, which is going to be fully open world, is going to be amazing and traversing different planets. Apparently, there's a game by an unconfirmed developer which is going to be massive, kind of like Elder Scrolls massive. If you're a Skyrim fan or Oblivion fan or anything like that, like I am, I'm a huge video game. Yeah, I can't wait to hear all these things. So I'm pleasantly anticipating everything, and I just need this concrete vision to start filling in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and there's, like you were saying, it's been up and down like crazy with the films. I mean, because I think I said it on last week's episode. We're pretty sure the next film we're getting is going to be in 2025, and so we're at that point we'll have gone 6 years without a Star Wars movie. And it's almost, and don't get me wrong, like I don't like to sit here and bash Lucasfilm. I don't, because they're still giving us Star Wars stuff. But man, that's kind of embarrassing, that Marvel is just pumping these movies out. And like you said, have like a 10-year plan, and we can't even get directors to stay attached to Star Wars films, And so I'm hoping that next week we get some, I'll tell you this, I know for a fact we're getting at least one title and one synopsis announced. Obviously no trailer, but we are getting at least one title and one synopsis announced. I know that there's most likely going to be 2 more movies announced. I'm not sure entirely what one of them is, but I have an idea of what the other one is. I was talking to somebody that was kind of privy, but I'm not allowed to say anything yet. So, and I'm hoping that they're right. I'm hoping that because it sounds awesome. I'm hoping to God it's correct. So, if it's true, Celebration this year is going to be huge, is what I'm saying. So, that's my prediction. We're going to get the one, or at least one title, and at least the synopsis for that one, and then after that, I think you'll get a couple of titles. That's what I'm going to say. There's going to be a couple of titles. So, I know
it's better than nothing. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to be getting. I promise you, we're going to be getting an announcement for Bad Batch season 3.
Cool.
That's going to be happening. I know we're getting the trailer for Ahsoka. I know we're getting the trailer for Skeleton Crew. And so there's so much to be excited about. There's so much to be happy about for as being a Star Wars fan. There's one thing I don't know if they're actually going to do at Celebration or not, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this, Usef, because I've been asked several times. First off, it's kind of a two-parter. First off, do you think Kathy Kennedy is going to be sticking around Lucasfilm? And second, as a follow-up, if not, do you think they're going to announce it at Celebration?
Yeah, so I heard you. We were talking about this in general, and you were talking about this on last episode. I think Kathy Kennedy is going to stick around, And I think if she's not going to stick around, I don't think they would announce it at Celebration. I don't think that's something that would be announced, really.
I agree.
I don't think such a. Well, first things first. If you're a fan like we are, and we're looking at the nitty gritty, the details, and sort of the everything, all of the little details into Star Wars, into Lucasfilm. We look into the Lucasfilm staff and which director and writers attached to what have they done before. Kathy Kennedy is doing what as the project manager. If you're a general Star Wars fan, you're not looking at any of that. You might not even know who Kathy Kennedy is,
Right.
honestly. But so Star Wars Celebration is meant to be something sort of to combine the both, to give the real hardcore fans something to look forward to and a payoff for the amount of, detail that they've been paying attention to. And it's also meant to, for the casual fan or the really good fan who's very into Star Wars but may not necessarily care or know who Kathy Kennedy is. Just, hey, you can just take a look here. If this is what we have coming right now. If it's all of a sudden announced that the CEO is coming off, and I know, ever since, this is the Steve Jobs and Elon Musk era, right? This is the sort of thing where the figureheads and the mastheads sort of it carries a lot of weight. So it's important, even to the general public, who's managing what. Even in sports fans now, a normal conversation across any sport will usually feature nowadays, more often than before for sure, who the manager is, who the coach is, who's doing what. Whereas, on an average conversation, let's say about 10 years ago, you wouldn't have gotten that in a general conversation. So no, it is. I agree that it is important nowadays to see who's leading what and is going to be common knowledge, but not so important to actually announce it at Celebration that Kathy Kennedy's leaving or staying or who's coming on. They'll announce directors and writers and say, oh, so he's affiliated with us now. He's going to be taking a film. He's going to be doing it. Remember when the trailer came out? Well, not a trailer. It was like a teaser. Came out for the Star Wars film, which was we were all very sad to see shelved or hear that it was shelved because it was rumored. It was going to be a Star Wars a fighter pilot saga.
Oh, Rogue Squadron.
Rogue
Squadron, yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of like how the game where we when we played Squadrons, we loved it, right? It was absolutely fantastic. It's a game, there's a story in there. It was pretty cool because that's canon, so it's fantastic to have that in there. And then in the novels, whenever we read and we have a fighter pilot sort of a view right there, the first person view in narrative, it's so cool. That just had to be a film eventually, But then and the teaser and everything, it went all in, and it was fantastic. And she was writing and she was co-directing and she was on there, and there was a video of her with a fighter jet. I think it was an F-18, not sure if it was an F-18 or F-22 down there. And then there was like a Star Wars model flying above her, and it was fantastic. It was amazing. That video was hardcore. I can't believe that was shelved. So something like that, definitely, that will be announced again and again, over and over again. But something like somebody leaving Lucasfilm, I don't think that would be announced at Celebration. But I do think Kathy Kennedy is sticking on. I think that the lack of getting a team together or a clear 10-year plan or even a 3-year plan for movies and hardcore stuff, I'll be honest, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt here and giving Lucasfilm in general the benefit of the doubt. I think they do have something in the works, similar to how you mentioned last episode, the novelizations and everything for not just for the books and for canon in general and for the stories that they want to get out there, but High Republic, a completely new direction, which is very important because one of my most anticipated shows, I know there's a question coming up, but one of my most anticipated shows is actually off the back of High Republic. So it's important for them to do this world building, which Lucasfilm had never fully embraced in the past.
Right.
Possibly a budget issue, possibly just a variety issue, I'm not sure. But now that they're doing all this stuff and they're giving us all this world building between every detail and the next, there's an extra bit of world building, and I love it. And I think they'll have that mapped to a certain extent. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they have, and I think that I don't think it's a Kathy Kennedy issue. I think it's more of a general overhauling, because they're overhauling canon again and again and again. So I'm just wondering how far that they can take this. I mean, they can't just give everything to Jon Favreau, can they?
Why not? They could.
Well, I mean, the man's got enough on his plate already.
You're not wrong.
I think so. We joke on social media and say that why is the Darksaber so heavy for Pedro Pascal to carry? Well, it's because he's not just carrying the saber; he's carrying the entire fate of the franchise on his shoulders, isn't he? I think that's actually Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, isn't it? It's not really. I mean, Pedro's an actor; he's an amazing one. That's for sure. But I mean, seriously, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have got everything on their shoulders just now.
Right.
And yeah, I just can't wait to see what they have cooked up. Maybe it's them. Maybe they're the ones doing everything. Maybe other directors coming and being intimidated by what they're doing. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but yeah. And this all goes back to remember when the Game of Thrones directors.
Oh,
when
yeah.
When they were
when Benioff and Weiss.
Benioff and Weiss. When they were supposed to be directing an entire trilogy. And it was rumored that was the reason that the last season of Game of Thrones was so rushed or felt rushed. That, they were just trying to wrap this up because they got an offer to go with Disney and Lucasfilm to work on the Star Wars trilogy. So they were just going to go and start that. And all of a sudden it's, okay, so we're not entirely sure how real those two events are connected. Really.
Right.
Because Game of Thrones might have just been, HBO might have just been, well, listen, we can't keep going because we're going to lose interest eventually. You got to finish it now, which is a genuine concern, which people have in general when writing. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, do you think that it's generally her fault, like it's a personal issue or it's a managerial issue and it comes from her office or it comes from her management?
I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to join the camp that I think there's an issue with Kathy Kennedy, which I've never really, actively been a part of that camp. I've never actively talked crap on Kathy. You know what I mean? Like I anytime I see a report, Kathy's leaving at the end of the year. No, she's not. Like I've always, defended her, all things considered. But I'm of the mindset that there was a report that the reason she's wanting to push a film by 2025 so badly is that her job depends on it. And that they told her, if you don't have a film out by 2025, you're getting the boot. Because like I said, 6 years without a Star Wars movie is embarrassing. You spent $4.3 billion on the franchise. Do Star Wars. That's what people want is Star Wars. Don't table Star Wars films for a minute to do an indie film. Why can't you do both? How many movies does Marvel work on at a time? I mean, they're constantly three films in production at a time, so they can do it if they just do it right. I think the problem is Kathy Kennedy, because it's the same issue over and over again. Directors leaving, writers leaving. It's the same thing over and over again. And I'm wondering why they can't get on the same page with Kathy or why Kathy can't get on the same page as them. I think I said it last week. My personal theory is that, don't get me wrong, I love George Lucas. He's the maker. He gave us everything that we love, right? But he surrounded himself with yes men. And, when the prequels came along, he surrounded himself with yes men so that when he wanted to do something, everybody's like, that's George Lucas. When George Lucas tells you to do something, you just do it, and so...
Yeah, it was a one-man show scenario, more or less, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. And so I feel like Kathy is kind of doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like I feel like she's a total control freak with Star Wars. If something doesn't match something she wants to do, then no, we're going to find somebody else. And, look at what's happened with it so far. Look at where it's gotten us. I wasn't a huge fan of the Star Wars sequels, of the sequel films. And I loved Rogue One. Solo's growing on me. Adore Mando. I adore Mandalorian.
Who doesn't?
And I loved Andor. I loved Andor so much. I can't wait for season 2.
Absolutely.
And so it makes me sit here and go, who's working on the stuff that I love right now? And it's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. But, and Filoni we trust. So I don't think we're going to get any announcement about Kathy leaving at Celebration. However, I do think her job is depending on getting a film out by 2025. Just like I said, just because of how embarrassing it can look to people that you haven't done one. Plus, I mean, some of the rumors was that she was going to announce that she was leaving either right before or right after Indy 5 comes out. And what message would that send if you announce your retirement right before your final movie comes out? I don't want to be here for the fallout. I'm leaving. What does that say about the film? You don't put any faith in your film. And after Indy, I'm of the mindset her job depends on 2025. So I think we're going to be having this conversation again, probably, 3 years from now? 2026. I think we're going to be having the same conversation 3 years from now after the next film comes out. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with the Kathy Kennedy thing. I don't want it to be true. I want her to make awesome Star Wars stuff, and I was so disappointed when I found out Rogue Squadron was tabled. And I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of drama around that as well, but, we'll never know, until somebody opens their mouth in an interview and says the wrong thing, and we're like, oh, so that's what happened, right? So, but yeah, I think Celebration is going to be a huge one this year, and really looking forward to what they have to announce. I'm curious about the Obi-Wan Kenobi panel, though, because I'm pretty sure this Obi-Wan panel is just going to be like, hey, the series is out now. You've seen all of it. This time last year, we showed you the first 2 episodes. Now the whole series is out. Let's do a reunion with Ewan and Hayden and, and everybody and talk about the series and everything like that. I don't think we're going to get a season 2 announcement out of that. So
No. I don't think they should. Oh, listen. So I'm one of those people who completely ate that show up. I loved it 100%. Other fans, other friends of mine, not just here in Egypt, but a couple of friends of mine in the UK as well. So they huge Star Wars fans. They felt, yeah, it's nice to see it, and it was great, but there wasn't anything added. It wasn't a story. Well, I mean, my response to that was, what did you expect?
mm-hmm.
Of course, this is what we're going to see. What we were supposed to see was, they gave us what we, some closure about the whole Obi-Wan versus Vader and coming face to face with Vader, because we got Ahsoka versus Vader in Rebels.
Right.
And if you haven't seen that, watch Rebels, because I'm watching Rebels right now, and it's amazing. It's really really good. But so we never got to see Obi-Wan versus Vader, except obviously in episode 4 and New Hope. Yeah, it was. I'm just reliving it right now and talking about it. It's so cool. I loved it. It was fantastic. I don't think we're gonna get a season 2 because there's not gonna. There should not be an Obi-Wan versus Vader
again. Right,
so
again.
There can't. And if there, well, I mean, I'm not sure if there can't be, but there shouldn't be. So if there would be, it would be Obi-Wan potentially helping out something else, or some more Inquisitor action, or potentially Luke and Leia growing up, a little bit of his perspective, a little bit of her perspective. That's potentially. So there's just a lot there that won't necessarily be a main event sort of thing. So I don't think there's a reason for that. Hayden Christensen recently was at a sort of Comic-Con. It was a Middle East fan comic book and novel festival, something like that. Fantasy and comic book festival.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the UAE, it was in the Emirates, it was in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, something like that. And Hayden Christensen was there. There were a bunch of writers that were there. Excuse me. Harrison Ford was supposed to be there, that backed out or something like that. There were a bunch of people from there. The creators of Cyberpunk were there. There was a lot of really good stuff over there. NEFCC, something like that. And Hayden was there. He kept getting bombarded with questions about the next show. If there's something going on, is he in the next movies? And he was like, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. Well, I mean, he can't talk about anything, but that probably doesn't mean that there is something to talk about.
Right.
It just means, he's waiting until Celebration, because he's going to be there definitely on the panel.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's always good to see him. He's amazing. He's a cornerstone in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, he is. And so I'm really looking forward to this celebration. I already told my boss. That's a Friday. I have a desk job now. So I told my boss, I've got 2 monitors on my computer at work, and I was like, one of them is going to be on Celebration. I'm going to have one ear to it. I'm going to have earbuds in. Don't talk to me. I told everybody in my office, I'm going to be watching that monitor that day. And if I have to go take a lap around the parking lot, excuse me for a minute. I got to go take a lap around the parking lot. So I'm excited to see what they're going to be bringing to the table. And especially because we're not getting a Celebration next year. And so I think our goal here is to try to make the 2025 celebration, because I've never been, and I want to go, and I feel like 2025 would be a really big year to go. Star Wars is coming back to the big screen, and we'll get a trailer.
We'll want to go and meet up there together. That would be amazing.
That would be so
like a live
fun.
Stream there.
Oh my God,
that would be amazing.
That would be so fun.
Maybe
that's 2 years out.
Me and Brian and I, we haven't actually met in person. People don't realize this. We've just met. I was just bringing this up on the group 2 years ago, something like that, when when I started listening to the podcast maybe 3 years ago, just before COVID started. And then when we started talking a little bit more, and I actually joined the podcast, yeah, that was when we started actually talking. So that was pretty amazing for that to happen.
Yeah, no, because we've talked about if, because I've always wanted to go to Egypt. I love Egyptology. I love ancient Egyptians. I love it. And so if we ever come over there, I've got a built-in tour guide. Yeah, I've got a built-in tour guide.
Of course. Yeah.
And
also later this year, there's going to be the opening of the new Grand Egyptian Museum.
Nice.
So there was the Egyptian Museum that was in downtown Cairo. The Grand Egyptian Museum, it was always in the plan, but for obvious political turbulence that's been happening over the past 10 to 15 years. So yeah, the Grand Egyptian Museum, if you research it, the GEM, is hopefully there's going to be a grand opening later this year. It's right next to the pyramids, and you get there, and this thing is amazing. It's not just a museum; it's like the Smithsonian. It's like obviously it's not nowhere as big as the Smithsonian. Smithsonian is huge. That's like history records. It's amazing. It's not going to be beaten anytime soon. The pure size of it. But the Grand Egyptian Museum isn't just a museum. It's a research facility. It's going to have courses and stuff in there. It's going to have like a mini campus in there as well. You get a whole panoramic view. There's a site of the pyramids in down in Aswan where the sun shone on the face of the statue of Pharaoh twice a year. And they coincided with the anniversaries of the day he was born and the day that he was coronated. That's how accurate these mofos were.
I love stuff like that.
They got it to be replicated in this museum. So they took one of the statues and they brought him up from Aswan and got him up here, and they did the same thing in this chamber. And that's going to be a biannual event. So, well, wait, not biannual. Biannual means every 2 years. So twice a year, this will happen. And it'll be a very special event where you have to. I'm already trying to source tickets. I want to be there for sunrise and sunset on this statue. I'll be there at 4 a.m. just to see the sunshine on his ass. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing.
We might have to do a show from there. Do an actual podcast from there and record it and upload. So maybe someday we'll get lucky and we'll be able to do something like that. So. But Celebration, yeah, we should definitely all try to go to Celebration together. That'd be cool. Get everybody in the same room together.
Celebration. That's right.
We derailed.
That wasn't intention at all.
That's okay. No, we derailed. For those of you that
planned, it was scripted,
are watching or listening, so Usef and I, like he said, we've been friends for a while. But this is the first time we've actually spoken, and other than Messenger, this is the first time we've actually spoken in months since before my father-in-law passed away and all that, and before I, shut everything down for a while. So, we might derail a little bit because we just want to talk, So, just a heads up. But as far as Celebration goes, as far as Celebration goes, I think it's going to be a really great year this year. I can't wait till next weekend, and I think it's going to be absolutely wild. So, if what we got this past week,
do you think
Mando
in terms of Celebration for the novels as well?
Oh yeah.
For novels, as well. Yes. So, for like the next phase of High Republic ought to be announced.
Right. Yeah, and which actually on High Republic,
any comic book runs?
I know they've already announced a summer crossover between Aphra, Vader, Star Wars, and Bounty Hunters again. Another one. So I'm glad you said comics though, because I went and got my pull file today. I need to go upstairs and get it when we're done recording and add it to the list of stuff. So I don't know if anybody can see or not, but I've got a stack of comic books behind me on the video version. I'm still in Crimson Reign. I'm still trying to get through Crimson Reign, and so I'm kind of like binge reading at this point, trying to get through them. So I don't know about comics at Celebration. They might announce something cool, but yeah, novels. I think they're gonna. I think we got some cool stuff coming. We got some cool novels coming that are kind of flying under the radar, like the Red Blade, the Inquisitor story, and stuff like that. There's some cool novels coming.
Inquisitors, yes.
So,
exactly, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So that's kind of our predictions for Celebration. Like I said, it's going to be a big year this year. I can't wait. So just get ready for the inevitable heart attack that we're all going to have come this time next week. So thanks for sending in the question, Jesse. Definitely appreciate it. Question number 2 this week comes from Emily Brooks. And Emily says, "Oh my God, did you see Zeb in this week's episode of Mando? He looked so good. Is this a tease for things to come or just a one-off cameo? I love you guys and your discussions." Thanks for sending in the question, Emily. And yeah, we finally finally got a live action Zeb Aurelius. And so Usef,
He looked outstanding.
He looked amazing. He looked so good. And so when Kirsten and I were watching this, and it's so early in the episode too. Usually the cameos are further into the. And this is like
so
right after the title card.
Exactly. Yeah. I almost didn't catch it. Like
Yeah.
I almost didn't notice it. I was looking at my phone at the time. I was looking up. I was like, wait. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I saw the Lasat first, and I was like, oh, it's a Lasat. That's cool. And then he started talking, and I'm like,
well, there's only a few Lasats.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that? Nuh-uh. That's. And I looked at Kirsty, and she's just like staring at the screen. We named our cat Gara Zeb Aurelius. So she's like looking at our cat. He was cuddling with us, and she's like, "It's you!" And like shit. So we were like so dumbfounded by it, we had to stop it. I freaked out. I fangirled, and then we had to back the scene up and watch it again, and then we continued with the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so cool to see Zeb. So this is now the second character from Rebels, if you don't count Ahsoka. I count her as Clone Wars. This is the second character from Rebels that has now made the jump to live action. We had Chopper and Rogue One kind of in a background scene, and now we've had Zeb. And we know the Ahsoka series is going to be the spiritual sequel to Rebels, if not the actual sequel to Rebels. And so, dude, like my excitement for Rebels, right, was like here. And now it's like way up here. And I'm like, dude, this is going to be insane. What are your thoughts, man? Like, so the second part of that question, do you think it was a tease?
Like Ezra. Oh, yeah.
Do you think it was a tease or a one-off?
Ezra was going to be close behind. No, it's a tease.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a one-off. No, this is nothing happens by accident anymore in this timeline. In this timeline, they're going to bring everything together. Maybe so do you remember how stoked you were telling us about when you read the novelization of Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker?
Yes.
It was much more detailed at the end, towards the climax, the call out into the galaxy to rise up together to fight the Empire or the First Order, and everybody assembled. And, all these different ships from all these different novels and all these different characters from across all these different from across the same timelines, just all these different eras. And they had been mentioned separately, just never together. So that culmination went really under the radar because not a lot of people who watched the films could actually resonate with it because they hadn't read the novels, they hadn't seen the comic books, they hadn't actually felt that. Whereas we really, so you're giving it a sort of a hidden hand sort of thing. The invisible hand is moving in. It's making me feel a lot more secure about this ending because it is a culmination. These are amazing characters that we love and have seen throughout Star Wars in general. So this is, I think, what they're doing. They're trying to bring it together so that, you know him from Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've watched Rebels, you're gonna love this and you're gonna see what they do. And even if you haven't watched Rebels, well, he's going to be in there. And then if you go back and watch Rebels later on, you'll be like, oh, that's where he's from. Or the video game and so on. I mean, I was half expecting, Seer's name to come up at one point because that's how confident I am that, Seer being the character, she was a Jedi and she was in the video game, Jedi Fallen Order.
Right.
And hopefully, she's going to be the next one as well. I'm half expecting her, her name or other names of people to come up as well, like Greer and whatever, because really, that's how intertwined they're making it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited. No, I don't think it's a one-off at all. I think this is a sign of more things to come. Really.
I think you're right, especially with the tease of the Purrgil that we got a couple of weeks ago in Mando through the hyperspace whales. I think that was a tease of things to come. I think Zeb was a tease of things to come. And I definitely am going to make a prediction on this. I'm going to make two predictions about Mando. And we'll see if I'm right here in the next 3 weeks. The first prediction I think is pretty obvious. I'm going to say Sabine Wren is going to pop up in this series. In this season, I think. Okay. Because now that Bo-Katan is, going out to look for other Mandalorians, I think she is going to go find Sabine Wren. I definitely think Sabine's popping up. Because this is the last live action show that they're doing, I think, before Ahsoka, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she's going to pop up. And my other prediction is maybe not so obvious, but I'm going to say Boba Fett's going to pop up. I think Boba
Right.
Fett is going to make an appearance, and so I have this feeling like he pops up when you need him, you know. So I think Fett's going to make an appearance also, and you know he's Mandalorian, so he made it a point to say I am Mandalorian, and even though you know,
Do you think Gideon is coming back?
oh yeah,
Or is going to make an
oh yeah,
appearance?
Gideon, I guarantee Gideon
this
will be in
season?
Yes, yeah, I definitely think
you
he's
think
going to be.
Thrawn? Do you think Thrawn is coming?
See,
this
and that's
season?
the thing, because now that Zeb has made an appearance, right? I'm very much a never say never guy with Star Wars now. Never say
Especially
never.
now.
Yeah, and so like I asked this on the Star Wars Newsnet live stream last night when we were talking about it. At what point do we stop being surprised when cameos happen? Because they just keep getting better and better, right? And so think about what Mando's given us so far. We've got, you know, Cobb Vanth from the Aftermath novels wearing Boba Fett's armor, riding on Darth Vader's pod racer. We got the return of Boba Fett. We got with Book of Boba Fett, we got Cad Bane. You know, with Mando. Who else have we got? We had the introduction of Ahsoka. We watched Luke Skywalker in live action
Luke
taking
Skywalker.
down Dark Troopers.
Thrash. Yeah.
Dark
Thrash
Troopers.
them completely.
Yes. You know, and so at this point, now we've seen Garazeb Aurelius. You never say never. I'm expecting me to pop up in one of these episodes at some point and not even remember doing it. You know, and so it's just surprise after surprise after surprise. And so I'm not going to say never. Thrawn, you know, if they're dropping this many hints about the Ahsoka series, I'm going to say, don't get me wrong, I'm going to lose my mind.
Why the heck not?
Yeah, I'm going to lose my mind.
But I'm going to say, why the heck not?
But I'm not going to be surprised at this point if he's in it, you know? So don't get me wrong. I'm going to make a mess. I don't know what kind of mess it's going to be yet, but there's going to be a mess.
But it'll be out of happiness.
TBD. Yeah, TBD, which kind of
mess.
mess it's going to be. But there's going to be one. But I'm not going to be surprised if that makes sense. So Thrawn, man, I think there's already been teases of him in this series, in this season also. You know, and so I know we're getting him in Ahsoka. Matter of fact, when I went and picked up my poll file today, I was talking to the guys there, and we were talking about Thrawn and what we think is going to be, you know, coming. And we were talking about that crossover event that Dave Filoni keeps talking about that Kathy talked about in 2020. And we're this much closer to it now. I told him, the moment Kathy said that on that investors call, the moment she said it, because she announced it right after the Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic series, the moment she said it, she hadn't even taken a breath yet from saying it. And in my brain, I was already, it's Thrawn. They're doing Thrawn. And I knew it from that moment that they were doing it. And I'm here for it. I need to change my eating habits so that I am here to see this masterpiece on the screen, right? So, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be Thrawn. But, I'm going to say 50-50 him popping up in this series, in this season. I'm going to say 50-50. But
that's amazing, though. Can't wait.
But, yeah, no. So, to go back to the question, no, this is a tease for things to come. This is them planting seeds. They're planting seeds for things that are going to be coming in the future.
Absolutely.
And just all you can do is just sit back, buckle in, put on a helmet because you're going to need it, and enjoy the ride. I think it's going to be that much fun. So thanks for sending in the question, Emily. Definitely appreciate it. The third mailbag question this week comes simply from Fives. That's how it was signed. That was the email. This comes from Fives. And Fives
Maybe it
says,
is Fives.
Maybe it is. Hey, Brian and Usef. First, I want to say I love your show and what you guys bring to the fandom. I was wondering if there were any pieces of canon material that you would like to see stricken from being official history. Thanks for the question.
I think I know one of your answers.
I'm going to let you go
one of
first
your
because
Is it not heir to the Jedi?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not
Okay.
anymore. You go ahead and
Okay.
go first. We'll see what you have to say first.
No, I mean, okay, completely stricken. If I had to choose one, I don't have one particular item I'd want stricken from fandom because I don't have something that is particularly, so bad that I just want it omitted and we can just keep going. I'd rather have some things rewritten, and if I had to choose one thing, it would be episode 9. That's it.
Oh yeah.
That's the only thing. That is the only one thing that I would have. And I know that's a big one and I don't want to jump the bandwagon. I'd love to give you an intricate, Fives. I hope you are Fives listening. I would love to the actual fives. I would love to. I would love to have like a very deep, detailed answer of like a certain comic book issue, which then set into motion various different things. But yeah, no, I just my ultimate answer is episode 9 because I never got a lot of closure there. It could have been
Right.
written in 100 different ways. Whether it was us seeing culmination of Kylo Ren truly becoming the supreme leader, which is something even Darth Vader never did. Whether we wanted to see something like him turning to the light and then conquer the first world, whatever it could have been. Rey, what happened with her, so many things, Fives, so many things. But yeah, in terms of actually something being purely omitted, I haven't read it nearly as much canon as Brian has for me to say, yeah, that there's no point for that. In fact, it may have done us damage. This should be gone. I could get my rubber eraser right now and erase it, and that would be great. I'm yet to find that particular piece just yet. I found a lot of things that annoy me in general. Kind of
yeah.
like, I mean, for example, like, I nitpick at stuff as well. So like, in Dooku, in the novelization, the novel, not novelization, the novel of Dooku, Jedi Lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's told in such a way where it really ought to be changed. If I'm honest, it's like a narration sort of thing, and it's not told from Dooku's perspective. It's just stories about Dooku being told, and it's not bad. I get to know a lot of it. It's just, guys, like, so for me personally, and you'll find out a little bit later as well with the next question, that I'm a huge villain fan. I love understanding. And Dooku, he's an anti-hero and a villain at the same time, in my opinion. I'm very, I have my own special opinion about Dooku. I just would have loved to see that written in a much more detail. I want to see more about the mind that sort of got changed, and I got to see some of that in the Tales in the Disney Plus show. Help me out, Brian. What's it called? Was it Tales of the Jedi?
Oh
Wasn't
yeah,
that it?
Tales of yep. Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of Jedi. So that
Yeah.
showed me a perspective of Dooku, which I wanted to see in the novel, and I wanted to see much more of it. And that was amazing. That was great to see. So yeah, some of the I like nitpicking this kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's my answer for now.
Oh, boy.
How about you, Brian?
If
Go ahead.
you
It's not Heir to the Jedi anymore.
if you'd asked me 2 years ago, it would have been Okay. So if you'd asked me 2 years ago, it would have been Heir to the Jedi. That was a novel that I had a really hard time swallowing. And it was the third novel out in the new canon, right? And so Heir to the Jedi was kind of grandfathered in from the EU stuff. It was already in production when they did the slate wipe. It got brought in, and history was made. Not good history, but history was made. So that book, it's not the bottom of the list anymore. Believe it or not, I actually went back and reread it. And I reread, I reread quite a few. I read A New Dawn, Tarkin, like the first 5 novels. Tarkin, A New Dawn, Tarkin, Heir to the Jedi, Dark Disciple, Lords of the Sith, and then the entire Aftermath trilogy. I read all of those again. And
Love
Aftermath,
Lords of the Sith.
Aftermath,
Love
I
it.
read them all back to back. I'd never done that before. I read them.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. I read them as they came out originally, and so reading them all back to back as one massive story was pretty cool. But now my answer is different. Now that we've had some more gems hit the timeline, I might make some people mad with this, because I know there's some people that really like this trilogy. It's a trilogy of books that I want stricken, not just a single piece. And I'm going with the Alphabet Squadron series.
Oh,
Dude, I did not have a good time reading those books.
all right.
The first book, and so when I'm reading the first book, right, and I can't even believe I have them on my canon shelf, but I've got them there. So when I was reading the first book, who wrote those again? I don't remember. Alexander Freed wrote those,
Mm-hmm.
and so he did his best to come up with some of the most impossible to pronounce names. And you guys know, if you've watched the podcast long enough, I'm not good with names as it is. I can barely pronounce some names once in a while on mailbag questions, and I'm praying to God that I don't offend anybody by doing it, right? And so I already have a hard time with names. But when you come across a name that is like 17, 18 letters long, It takes you, it's got 4 hyphens in it. It takes you out of the book for a second, and you can't just come up with a shorter version of the name. Use the same long name every time. And so that took me out of it, and I couldn't get into that series at all, and I'll play devil's advocate against myself. Like I just said, I read the Aftermath trilogy all back to back, and it was kind of a different perspective. Maybe I need to go back and reread Alphabet Squadron all back to back. And I don't know if I have it in me to do it, because it was so hard for me to get through. So at this point, I would almost just rather have it stricken from canon. It really didn't connect to anything else overall. And so it kind of told its own story. And to be honest, man, yeah, that's it. That's the one. That's the bottom of my list now. I think it was the last ranking video that I did, where everybody was like, well, we know what the bottom one's going to be. And then this last one, they were like, what? Like, really? It's not Heir to the Jedi anymore. Excuse me. Sorry. It got dethroned.
But yeah, that sounds pretty, that sounds pretty deep, because obviously that ruined your experience.
It did. And
anyway, and actually appreciating it. And it's not linked to anything, then why are you giving me a chore to do that? That's when that feels like a chore, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it was a chore to get through them. And those books came out 6 months apart. So I read, the first one 6 months later, had to read a second one. And I remember being halfway through the second one and going, crap. And Kirsty was like, what? And I'm like, this is a trilogy. There's another one of these books coming along. Damn it. And I was like,
never a good sign.
No. I was like, it's not good, And so I sat down and powered through the last one. And I was like, man, these aren't good. To me, they're not good. I know there's people out there that enjoy those books and will defend them. That's great. I'm glad you liked them. I wish I had liked them. I'm glad you got a really cool, fighter pilot trilogy. But if they called me yesterday and was like, yeah, no, we need to remove some books. Which one, or a piece of canon? What is it? Oh God, yeah. No, get rid of Alphabet Squadron, please. For the love of God. So that's my answer. Jesus. I do agree with you to an extent with episode 9 though, because I've read the Duel of the Fates story that Colin Trevorrow had, and it would have been so cool. They've even got web comics that somebody has gone through and made adapted from that screenplay, and it looks like it would have been so cool to see that story. And I feel like it would have went with the first 2 films a lot better than what the 9 we got did. So, but that's my answer. If I could get
I'm going to need you to send me that link, because I've been holding off from reading it for a while. I think you guys shared it before, but I'm going to read that through. I'm going to read that through.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. It's really, the artwork is pretty cool. I mean, it actually plays like a Star Wars movie, and it starts on Corellia.
Amazing.
Like, it's pretty cool. Like the shipyards above Corellia, it's pretty cool. So Rey's got a double-bladed lightsaber. Like, there's no redemption for Kylo. Like, it's just, there's even a lightsaber battle, if I remember right, between Vader and Kylo. Like a flashback scene. It was so cool. So, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I would get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, how can you have a redemption arc for Kylo Ren and not have Anakin Skywalker come up to him in a vision or even in his mind? How?
Yeah.
How can you not have Anakin? He can at least be like, show me Anakin, show me grandfather, show me Vader. When he's episode 7, he's crouching down there next to the helmet, next to the scorched helmet of Vader, which he clearly went to the wreckage of the Death Star to look for. On the moon of Endor, where his grandfather was incinerated, or burned, after he died. What's the word? When he was cremated, right?
Oh,
he was cremated after he died. And he clearly went there and dug it out and found it specifically. And then he's trying to draw strength from his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And then how can you have that start? And then in episode 9, when he's getting redeemed, and then all of a sudden he sees Anakin in front of him. Anakin, not Vader. And that would be amazing. Like, I'm almost getting chills thinking about that possibility. Like, that is, yeah.
I'll send you the link, because you would really enjoy it. As far as the Vader helmet thing goes, just a little aside, have you started The Princess and the Scoundrel yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
because I have a shit. So that when that was announced, I had already like 3 books that I bought on Audible, which I'm looking through. So I wanted to do The Princess and the Scoundrel, which my wife also wants to read with me, actually. So we're
It's
gonna do that together, hopefully this summer.
it's pretty
For like
good.
a month or something.
It's a pleasant surprise for me. I
Okay.
wasn't really looking forward to it a whole lot. But it really does feel like classic Star Wars. It picks up the
Nice.
day after Endor, and it goes,
Ah,
and
okay.
Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, the droids, Chewie, they're all there, and it
Nice.
actually feels like Star Wars again. But I ask you this because it's not really so much a spoiler. There's a scene. I'm not going to tell you what is said during it or anything like that, because that, I guess, could be kind of spoilery. But there is a scene where Leia is kind of walking out through the woods away from the village, and she starts to smell smoke, like this acrid smell, and she finds what's left of Vader's funeral pyre. And
Whoa.
she finds the helmet and is like talking to Vader, basically telling her exactly what she thought of him. And it is
Oh,
such a good scene. It is so
Wow.
good. So there's The Princess and the Scoundrel. It's a pleasant surprise. I think you are really going to enjoy it.
all right. Yeah, I've just moved it up in my priorities.
Yeah,
100%.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
for
good.
sure.
So that one, I think you and your wife are both really going to like that one a lot. So
Amazing. She definitely loves Leia. Not just, I mean, at first she loved Luke, but now she loves Leia a lot more. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's a lot of people. I think a lot of people have come to
She
have a
she
new
read
appreciation for
Bloodline.
Leia. Oh,
We read Bloodline together, and she was just like, "Yeah, amazing, best book ever." Like that's it. Like I love this angle of Star Wars much more than anything else. So I was
yeah.
like, yeah, absolutely. This is an amazing angle of Star Wars, by the way.
And Bloodline had some galaxy shattering stuff in it. I mean, it was
Yeah, exactly,
huge
exactly.
spoilers, like huge spoilers. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, so yes, if I could pick anything, it would be Alphabet Squadron. Get rid of it, kick it out. It's garbage. No more. Please, no, God, don't give me any more of those. So, thanks for the question, Fives. I appreciate it, and hope
Wherever you are.
yeah, yeah, that's right. So, thanks for the question, Fives. I appreciate it. Question number 4 this week comes from Bradley Rains, and Bradley says, "Hello there, fellow nerds. Do you think an animated comedy would work in canon?" Thanks for the question, man. And I'm going to let you start this one because go ahead.
Well, I mean, comedy-wise, in Star Wars, I've always had what's the word? I've always felt like the people interpret comedy differently in Star Wars, because there's a lot of different comedy in Star Wars. But firstly, I do think it would work. But I think that if it was specifically meant to be a comedy, I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding the question or not. But if it's like a sort of not necessarily like a sitcom, I'm not talking Seinfeld stuff. I'm just saying, like, if it was a comedy, just like a show set in Star Wars that would be comedic, yeah, I'd love to see that. Why not? It's just a Star Wars show with laughs in it. But if it is a show in general, like an animated show with a lot of comedy in it, just watch Clone Wars.
You're right. The Anakin Obi-Wan
Because
stuff, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, if I think a comedy show would work and an animated comedy show would work with Star Wars, yeah, 100%. And there was supposed to be the show. Well, I think we got it already. Droids on Disney
Oh,
Plus, and that's kind of a comedy. Yeah,
yeah.
and that's going to be like quite children oriented, child oriented content, which is supposed to be a little bit of slapstick humor, I suppose, sort of like accidental stuff and bumping into stuff, slipping on banana peel, that kind of thing. But but if we were actually to look at other sources of comedy, Star Wars characters are, whenever you look at characters of different universes, right, or different genres or whatever, whenever I think of Star Wars characters, they're always, all of them, this is like an underlying tone, they're always very quick-witted, every single one of them. They're always very smart, potentially intellectual. Even Greer is kind of intellectual in his own way. He's experienced, right? So,
Right.
For those who can't remember, Greer is the name of the pilot of the plane, the crew, the Mantis crew, which is
Grease.
in Jedi Fallen Order.
Grease,
Excuse me,
yeah,
not Greer,
Grease,
excuse
yeah.
me. Keep thinking of Greer County.
I knew who
Yeah,
you were
anyway.
talking about, but the second time you said Greer, I'm like, that's not right. Wait, no. And then,
Greer.
and as soon as you said
sorry,
I was like, is he talking about somebody else? Am I thinking of somebody else? And then when you said Mantis Crew, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, no, you're good. So, but
Yeah, sorry, I miscorrected. I was
No,
thinking about
you're-
the song Greer County Bachelor. But yeah, so Grease being, he's kind of rough around the edges, but he's still quite smart and quick-witted and really experienced in his own way. Every Star Wars character is, especially the pirates, and even Mando.
Oh,
He seems
yeah.
quite reserved and stuff.
Hondo
But he's
and
actually
Naka.
quite. He knows what's going on.
Hondo.
Yeah, exactly.
Hondo.
I
You
mean,
could do an
Leia,
entire
Luke, all the
comedy.
clips, yeah,
You could do a whole comedy with
Exactly.
Hondo. I mean, he's
exactly. If you
hilarious.
did nothing other than follow Hondo or Solo,
Yeah. Yeah.
seriously, and you would get comedy straight away.
you would.
So yeah, no, I think it works. In terms of animation, yeah, Star Wars
Yeah.
was big on animation, and it could still be there. We could still get a lot of new animation. Obviously, the world tends to be like, or the audience tends to say, "Oh, you're not going to do live action. You're going to do some more animation. What are you, lazy? Like, what is this? Like, everybody's doing live action. What's going on?" So I think, and it's not for a shortage of actors, and it's all budgetary issues, obviously. But
Mhm.
I mean, if Star Wars was to do a good animation show, I'd watch that for sure, especially if it was a comedy, and I think it would fit. Whether if it was a pure comedy show, just like with some world building and a little bit of action and running away here and there, or if it was something like Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that, and it was more comedy centric. Yeah, that would be great. I think it would work. What do you think?
We almost got one. Star Wars
We almost got
Detours. We almost got Star Wars Detours. For those of you that don't know what Star Wars Detours is, Seth Green was working on this show. That you can still see like the trailer for it on YouTube. It's got crap loads of views, and this is a show that they've talked several times about unshelving it and getting it out and doing it. Just do it. If you guys go watch this trailer, you're gonna laugh at some point in this. It's hilarious. There's something. It's a whole bunch of clips of what they had put together, just basically in this big trailer montage kind of thing, and everybody will find something in there that will make them laugh. I mean, there's even some clips that are on YouTube of some of the episodes that was released, and some of them were, I mean, there's one where Obi-Wan is at this like job fair, and he's like this homeless hobo, right? And he's like at this job fair, and he's got a table, and this girl comes up, and he's like, "Ooh, are you a Jedi? Let's find out." And he puts a marble on the table, and he picks the table up and starts tilting it back and forth. He's like, "Oh, you see that? That's the Force. You're doing that." And like, it's just, it's hilarious what they could do with that, and something along those lines. And Darth Maul and Palpatine are just hilarious. Or not Darth Maul. I'm sorry, Darth Vader and Palpatine are just hilarious together. Palpatine is voiced by the same guy that voices him in Robot Chicken. And so it's just he's like,
which I think is the best ever impersonation we've ever had.
There's one scene
Best
where
rendition
he's
ever.
walking down the ramp of a Lambda shuttle, and Vader's kneeling, and he's like, "Welcome back, my master. How was the singles cruise?" And Palpatine's like, "There wasn't a cloud in the sky." Or how do you say? He goes, "There wasn't a cloud in the sky," which is kind of weird since it was raining chicks. And he's just like, you'd have to see it. It's hilarious. So go type in Star Wars Detours and watch this is a show I definitely think a Star Wars comedy would work. It doesn't have to be canon, obviously. And there's another scene where Obi-Wan is doing stand-up comedy in Jabba's palace. And it cuts to him, and as he's talking, there's like stuff getting thrown at him from different angles, and he's like, "Don't you people get it? His name was Windu, and he went out a window." And like
No.
everybody's just staring at him, and he's like, "That joke was hilarious, and you all loved it." And they all start laughing, and the show would have worked. It would have worked. We need it. My soul needs Star Wars Detours. So go check it out if you guys haven't seen it. I definitely think a comedy could work. Star Trek did it.
I think Star Trek did do it.
Star Trek did it. So what was it called? The Lower Decks or something like that? Star Trek: The Lower Decks, I think. But anyway, they did it. So why can't we have comedy in Star Wars? You just got to get the right people to do it, is the thing. So, yes, I definitely think it would work. Are we ever going to get it? Probably not.
Not to skip over, by the way, Star Wars Lego holiday special, and Star Wars Lego Rise of Skywalker
Right.
saga, the games and everything. But yeah, it's obviously another level what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and this, I think it would work. I think honest to God, think it would work. I really do. So, thanks for sending in the question, Bradley. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you guys think a comedy could work in Star Wars? Why or why not? I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about that. So, let me know in the comments of whether you're watching on YouTube, you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Comment below and let me know. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So, thanks for sending in the question, Bradley. All right, question number 5. It comes from Kimberly Breckett. And Kimberly says, "Good morning, Mr. Miller and Mr. Waly. Hope you're doing well. What is your most anticipated project in the works right now, and why?" I'll start this one. Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I am over the moon, ready for Ahsoka. This is a show that, we talked about it a little bit earlier. We're getting the sequel series of Rebels, and we're getting Thrawn, and we're getting more Ahsoka. We're getting Ezra. We're probably going to get Zeb, I mean, now that we know that they can do it. And so it's Ahsoka for me. That's absolutely. What about you, Usef?
It's Acolyte, 100%.
Oh,
So I'm all about the dark side. I'm all about the dark side. I'm all about the dark side. I'm gonna keep saying it forever. I just can't. I think genuinely a story is only as good as its villain. No matter what kind of story it is. No matter if it's Star Wars. No matter if it's I don't care if it's anything really. It's a novel. It's a TV show. It's a film. It's a murder mystery. It's a saga. It's a drama. It's a whatever. It's only as good as its villain. It's only as good as its villain. And Darkseid really has produced many very cool, outstanding, passionate villains. I just love Star Wars villains, and that is what actually hooked me into Star Wars. Watching Darth Sidious cackle, that unbelievable cackle with that insanely good music in the backdrop behind him. Yeah, I can't wait to see another sort of dark side user be introduced, Acolyte. So we already have a little bit of news about Acolyte being set towards the end of the High Republic. This is what I've been
right.
mentioning a little bit earlier when we were talking now. It's towards the end of the High Republic era. And protagonist is going to be a woman, and she is going to have her own antagonists. Whereas even though she herself is going to be a dark side user, so technically she's evil, technically. But I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
Right.
Because if we look at the original trilogy and the prequels and the sequel trilogy, this era of Star Wars, if you're a dark side user, force user, then you're quote unquote evil. Whereas if you actually look at the Sith in other eras, like with Bane, they're not necessarily evil, not in the traditional sense anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They look at control, and they look at this idea. If you know what Assassin's Creed is and the Templars, then you know what I'm talking about, because they look at it as in a sort of order. They look at it as in a sort of no, you can live in the chaos because your true self is coming out, sort of thing. And if that means that you control someone else because you show them that you can overpower them, well, then it's their job to try to power up against you, sort of thing. It's very competitive. It's very aggressive based because it's very raw. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Acolyte has in store for us. And as I said, so I read one of the I read Light of Jedi in the High Republic era, but I want to read the rest of the High Republic books as well all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But I just can't keep, I tried it because I wanted to go in tandem, sort of. Yeah, let's keep reading the books I'm reading. Currently I'm doing Battle Scars, but
Good book.
I realized
Good
I
book.
couldn't go back and forth in between eras, so I just want to sit down, finish High Republic all at once, and it'll put me in a good mood as well, so that when I go back and watch Acolyte, and hopefully when it's released, I can think back to High Republic and be like, okay, so I've got everything with me now,
Right.
if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm extremely excited for Acolyte. Extremely. I'm a huge villain fan, sort of.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good. Actually, I completely forgot Acolyte was coming out. No, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah.
I'm really excited about. I'm extremely excited about. Oh, and if in the future the movies that come out are High Republic focused and they're in the High Republic era, then we're looking at a completely new challenge of thinking of Star Wars in a world or in a galaxy far, far away without Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, without Obi-Wan Kenobi. There
Right.
will be probably Master Yoda, probably, but he will not be ultra central. He'll be the only familiar face we see. Isn't that right?
Yeah, you're right. He's kind of the only tie we have
Constant.
for High Republic to what we already know.
Yeah.
But I love
I mean, he
Yoda.
was.
Yeah.
Of
So,
course, no, Yoda's outstanding, of course.
but no, that's a good answer. Acolyte. That's another good one that I'm really looking forward to myself. I'm gonna stick
Actually-
with Ahsoka though for my answer. But yeah, Acolyte
Oh no,
is
absolutely,
definitely
absolutely.
second.
I can't wait for Ahsoka either, but it's amazing. I can't wait for that. But Acolyte it just tips the scales for me. Just me
Right.
genuinely loving the dark side so much, and something which I may have done a bit of a disservice to. So Dooku, Jedi Lost. I may have done
What'd
that
you
just a
do?
little bit of a disservice because there is in that book there's something really cool about the relationship between Dooku and Yoda, which pops up here and there.
Yeah.
So that was actually really, I have to say that actually, okay. So the only thing I would change about Dooku, going back to the answer, is just the narration. I would never admit that book, but yeah, just Yoda and Dooku's relationship is amazing. It's outstanding
yeah.
because Dooku's seen as quite of a risk.
Right.
He's seen as quite of a risky character. He's very, very quick to rush to be a little bit aggressive. He's not violent, but he's very strong. He's very powerful. Even when he's a youngling, he defeats a Jedi, a fully Jedi master
Right.
in single combat. Like that's outstanding. And then he defeats Saifu Diaz, who was in his, let's say, in his class.
Mhm.
They were both in the same class. They were graduating as younglings. He defeats him literally blindfolded.
Right.
Literally with one arm tied behind his back and blindfolded. He defeats him. He is all kinds of crazy. He's amazing. And he just carries himself with this aura because even though he never grew up with his family who are aristocrats, he knows that he's an aristocrat by blood. So he just
Right.
carries himself that way. He's such a complex character that every Jedi master turns him down because they don't, or rather not turn him down. Nobody chooses him to be his apprentice. And who walks up and chooses him to be his apprentice? Grandmaster Yoda.
Yep.
And that is outstanding because then Yoda's taking, what is this? Yoda might be taking it as a challenge onto himself. But then see, when you know all of this backstory, and then you watch episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and you see Yoda walk up to Dooku. And then Dooku's like, Master Yoda, with gritted teeth and his eyes are piercing. And he's just like, okay, now I see that scene a lot differently.
Right.
A lot differently, actually.
And even the stuff
It's
like Tales of the
amazing.
Jedi, even that stuff.
Oh, yes.
You know,
yes.
has
Even that
altered
stuff
it.
as well. Oh, unbelievably. The way he took out Yaddle and how he felt
Oh.
about Qui-Gon. And, so the Dooku and Qui-Gon's story, that in itself is just outstanding. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah, so this concept, Dooku, is one of the reasons why. It's just evidence to anybody who really wants to see how much I love the dark side. Look at Dooku and the conflict that he may have gone through, being a Jedi all his life and being very powerful with the Force and loving it and loving Jedi. He felt the Jedi were misguided.
Mhm.
And he was slowly edging towards the dark side for very different reasons than Anakin did, for very different reasons than Darth Sidious would have turned to the dark side, for very different reasons than Pelagius did. Every single one of these 4 different characters had a completely different reason for using the dark side of the Force. Pelagius thought it was a wisdom of power, of achieving a certain oneness with the Force that you just couldn't using the light side. You have to see both sides, and he loved the dark side so much, and he was already powerful with it. That was Pelagius. And Sidious just wanted absolute control. He wanted to win. He just wanted to dominate. And then Anakin turned to the dark side out of seduction, out of, he wants something that he can't necessarily get, and he's misguided a little bit. And even though he knows he might potentially be misguided, he's going to go down that path because he wants to see what it is. And then he enjoys the power that he has because he's already powerful enough. And then Dooku, on the other hand, is like, okay, I've tried this. Let me try that because I think I might be able to fix this. He's sort of his own villain in a certain way. Yeah, I just love the Force, man. I just love the Force and the dark side. It's fantastic. The dark side is not so dark. It's not so it's not black and white.
Right.
Really
It was
is.
a
I just
huge
love
gray
it,
area. Yeah.
Yeah, it is exactly. Yeah, and I'm sorry for that huge monologue. I just went on, but I just love it. I just love it.
See, this is how you know Usef absolutely adores villains. This is how you know. Like this guy, dude, Usef could talk hours on villains, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
Because
please don't let me do that.
there are things
we only
that
got a certain amount of time before our viewers switch off.
there are things that I've heard you say when we were talking where I'm just like, whoa, he's right. Like, and the only other person that's ever done that to me was Dave Filoni. So if that makes you feel any better, dude,
well, I'm in good company.
Usef gets villains, dude. So I love that. So, all right.
Thanks,
So let's
I'm not going to go crazy or turn into a villain myself.
No, you're good. Let's move on to question
I'd love
number
to turn into a
6.
villain.
Don't do it, man. Don't do you, oh my brother. So question number 6 this week comes from Ian Cross. And Ian sends in, I have a question I'd like your take on. Would the Jedi and Sith ever work together? My fiance asked me this the other day, and I didn't have an answer. Usef, we were just talking about villains. What do you think? Do you think the Jedi and Sith would ever have a threat come up that was so big that they had to work together?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay. I think. Okay, so the way you phrase that question is different though. If there was a threat so big that they would work together, yes, it's like that movie The Martian, with USA and China setting up a space program together
to go get
so
Mark
that they
Watney.
could save.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Mark Watney. Yeah. Who was who was he? It wasn't Mark Wahlberg. It was
Matt Damon. Yeah, Matt Damon. Yeah.
Stranded on Mars.
Yeah.
And then something goes wrong, so they do that. They work together. As in, there's political tensions, but they call them and like back channels and whatever, and then they start working together.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a similar situation, but I think what would come out of here is potentially that situation where, the Sith would potentially work with the Jedi to do this, and then they would probably just screw the pooch and just steal something and try to take over themselves. You know what I mean? They're kind
Right.
they're kind of mischievous in that way, depending on the reasons why they do it. I think that, okay, so actually, you know what this brings up? What was her name in Legends? Luke Skywalker's affair with the dark side.
Oh, you talking about Mara Jade, his wife?
Mara Jade.
Mara Jade, yeah.
So if Luke and Mara Jade might see eye to eye on some things, the Jedi and Sith might see eye to eye on other things. And so, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain thing to see, like they might have in common,
Mm-hmm.
or points of interest, not just being strong with the Force, but actual goals and targets. Yeah, that might potentially happen. I mean, heck, in Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi works with Dooku's apprentice, the assassin, a little bit,
Ventress.
because they're trying to escape. Asajj Ventress.
Yeah.
Works with her a little bit just to escape a certain situation where they're both being attacked
Mm-hmm.
by a certain force. And that's a very cool couple of episodes. So Clone Wars for me was very swing or miss. That's just my experience of it. Clone Wars, other than that, is amazing. I would always tell people to watch it entirely. You'll always find a lot of stuff that you love. You might love it
Right.
all. You might love some of it. But some of these episodes stuck with me a lot. And that episode where Obi-Wan and Ventress, you see Ventress's opinion of like, stinking Jedi, this is always your approach, isn't it? Always so feeble, so something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Obi-Wan's like, you're always running way too aggressive. So what? And this is what got you injured and having to work with me in the first. So why don't you just listen to me for once? It's that kind of thing. And he's very master about it. So, but yes, I do think, in short, yes, I think they might be able to work together. It'll be fleeting. It will be very, very brief. It will never be. The reason that they can't naturally work together is because they naturally can't sit on a table without ultimately knowing that he's from the North Pole, she's from the South Pole, or the other way around.
Right.
And they're just completely other sides of the magnetic poles. They're just completely pulling in different directions of Hawaii and how to use the Force, and therefore they are, to a very large extent, at complete odds of how to live life,
Right.
about the meaning of life, about the sanctity of life, about saving innocence or not, about using power, about using weapons, etc., etc. Yeah, I took that way too global of a feeling, but I think that's how I feel about it. What do you think?
I think they would work together, but I think both sides. Let's say this massive threat came into the galaxy, right? I think,
right,
and it was a threat to both of them. I think they would. not team up, but I think they would cooperate with each other where
Cooperate.
their goals aligned. But I think other than that, the entire time, and I'm going to say this about the Jedi too, I think both sides would be secretly trying to plot amongst themselves how to take care of the other side at the same time. How do we mitigate that risk and them in one fell swoop? You know what I mean? And so I'll say that about the Jedi
absolutely.
too.
No, you said the word cooperate. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's where that would fall, because there was even a story in Tales of the Jedi and Sith where Obi-Wan was chasing Asajj Ventress through the woods. She fell into this temple, and he, I think she was injured, if I'm not mistaken, and they had to work together to, or maybe it wasn't Obi-Wan. I don't remember. I have to go back and look at the story again, but I'm pretty sure it was Obi-Wan. And there was a lot of bickering back and forth, obviously, Kenobi, my sweet, and stuff like that. But it was still a really cool story. So they've done it before, but I think on a massive scale, like on a galactic scale, man, it'd have to be a hell of a threat. It would have to be it'd have to be a huge deal, right? And for them
to be like galaxy shattering.
Yeah. And so I don't think they're ever going to do anything like that. But I'll tell you what, they ever come out with a movie that's a Jedi and a Sith, and they're in a group of them, and they have to come together to work together to take out a threat, I'm there. First in line, opening night, popcorn ready, drink ready. I am ready to go. I am here for it. Bring it on. I would love to have something like that, because
Absolutely.
the storytelling potential is just ridiculous,
That's
So
100%.
Oh, sorry. And so I'm there for it. Bring it on. I don't think that they'll ever do it, but yeah, I would be there for it. So I hope that answers your question. All right, we got one question left this week, question number 7, and it's a very simple question. It's worded very simply. It's elegant. Thank you, Sydney Goodwin, for sending in this question. This question says, so how about that Bad Batch finale? I feel kind of bad about including this question. It's a great question. Don't get me wrong, Sydney. I'm glad you sent it in. But Usef hasn't seen Bad Batch yet.
I haven't seen season 2. I've seen the first season, but I need to rewatch it for sure.
So Usef has said he's not worried about spoilers. But this finale has a massive spoiler in it, if it hasn't already been ruined for you. It's a huge.
I think it has been ruined for me.
Okay,
go for it.
It's a huge. You guys heard that, right? He said go for it. So
go for it like I'm not even here.
So we, the big thing that happened, and there's a bunch in this finale that there's a lot to unpack. But I think the biggest thing is we had the death of Tech, and he bit the dust. He did the ultimate sacrifice. He gave his life to try to save his squad mates, and he went out like a heroic badass. He just did. And he was cool about it. We were talking on Star Wars Newsnet Live last night. It was me and Nate Manning, and we were talking about this. And one of the things that I really couldn't stand about episode 9, right? This is relevant, I promise. One of the things I really couldn't stand about episode 9 was how many times that movie killed somebody off just to bring them right back in the next scene. Chewie died. Just kidding. He was on the other ship. 3PO got his memory erased. Just kidding. R2 has a backup of 3PO on his Google Drive. Ben got thrown down the bottomless pit. He's gone. Just kidding. He's back. Oh, Rey died. Just kidding. She's back. Ben saves her life. Zori Bliss was on Kijimi when it blew up. She had no way off the planet. No, just kidding. She's at the final battle, on Exegol. The entire movie was around Palpatine was dead. Just kidding. He's back. So the entire movie just did that. And that's a sin. That's a cinematic sin, in my opinion. Once, I get it. Twice, but 7 times in the same movie. Han Solo's dead. Just kidding. Here's a memory of him. So it's like how many times are you going to do this in this movie to us? And I fully expected General Hux to get up from getting the blaster shot to the gut and just be like, "Ooh, that hurt," and brush that off and walk away. And so it was just, I hate it when they do that. And so I'm hoping, I can't believe I'm saying this. Please forgive me, the maker. Please forgive me. I hope Tech stays dead. I hope he's dead. I hope he stays dead. Because we were talking about, what if he's not? Because they found his goggles. They found his cracked out goggles. And this doctor was like, that was the only thing we could recover. Well, was it? Was it really? So Tech is gone. I think they need to leave him dead because otherwise there's no stakes. Look at Marvel. How many times?
Right, yeah.
How many times does Marvel kill a character off and then bring him back? Loki's died how many times? In 3 different movies, and they still brought him back for another series. So how many times so far, like in Marvel, there's only been a couple people that have died and stayed dead. Quicksilver was one. Thor's mother. Oh, just kidding. No, she was back too. They time traveled. They went and saw her again. But it's just one of those things I can't stand it when they do it. Because there's no stakes then. Because if they bring Tech back in the show, then the next time somebody dies for real, you're gonna go, oh no, he's fine. He'll be back. Don't even sweat it. So there's no stakes. It takes away that emotional pull whenever you finally do something. Look at Rebels, right? How far are you in Rebels right now? Because I know you said you're watching Rebels.
So I had previously watched the first 2 seasons, so
Okay.
I'm rewatching it again. Just finished the first season.
Okay.
Starting the second season. Well, I'm already on episode 2 of the season 2. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
love Rebels.
I don't want to ruin anything in season 4 of Rebels for you. And I'm not going to say who it is, but there's a major character death in Rebels, and it was gut-wrenching to watch, to see for the first time, because you're like, there's no way that person survived that. Like, are you serious? And so you got to have...
stay dead?
They stay dead. They do. And
Yeah, okay.
and I'm...
Well, I mean, gravitas
so
is only
sad.
gravitas if you don't take away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got to leave these characters dead. You have to. Otherwise, there's no stakes. When this character died in Rebels, it was like, oh, like nobody is safe. You know what I mean? Like, so every episode after that, you're like, man, is everybody going to make it out of this alive? Like, and so it kind of builds that gravitas, like you said, use the word gravitas. It kind of builds that a little bit more, and it's like, oh, crap. So I hope they leave him dead. I feel callous saying that. I hope they just leave him dead. I hope he's rotting at the bottom of this pit. And I'm like, just leave him there. But that's not the only thing this season gave us. There's a lot to unpack in this one, Sid's betrayal of the guys, turning them over to the Empire, calling the Empire, especially when they're down already, kicked while they're down. They just lost Tech, and then she goes and pulls this. Just kicking them while they're down. There's so much to unpack here. The revelation at the end of who this doctor was, talking to Omega, who she actually is. It's like, what? Like, where's this going? So it was a heck of a finale for Bad Batch. It was, Bad Batch for me has been that show. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy Bad Batch. When they announced it, Kirsty and I were like, oh, they're doing a series of Bad Batch. Cool, because we really enjoyed those episodes of Clone Wars. And so I've really enjoyed it, but the first season felt like every episode was kind of its own thing. There was no underlying subplot that ran throughout the entire season. There was with this season, and I'm here for it. I'm ready. It's actually really good. They're really focusing on the cloning aspects that the Empire was looking at between episodes 3 and 9. I don't know. But really good. It was a solid finale. I really enjoyed it. I think it capped the season off really well. And it showed us that moving forward, nobody is safe. And so that's what I like in stories, is when it builds the suspense a lot more. So like, here's an example. So if we have a character that pops up, somewhere else in canon later down the road, and then they're in this like really bad situation earlier, and you don't know if they're going to make it out. Well, obviously they have to make it out because you already know they're in this over here. It kind of lowers the stakes a little bit. But when you're killing off main characters, nobody's safe. You know what I mean? It's like Deathly Hallows all over again. You don't know who's going to make it out of it alive. So I thought it was a great series. You said you're watching the first 2 seasons again, or the first season again.
I just blazed through them. Yeah, so I blazed through Rebels, the first 2 seasons, really quick, and I didn't get a chance to really like enjoy them. And I had like a bad impression of it. I was like, no, I gotta finish it, but I want to do the first 2 seasons justice, so that when I watch the second 2 seasons, I'm actually like really into it. And I'm really thoroughly enjoying it this time around. So I finished the first season and now the second season. So yeah,
that's kind of how I was with Clone Wars, believe it or not. Because I started watching Clone Wars when they first started airing it, and I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to watch this. That was the first Star Wars movie that I ever set, the Clone Wars Star Wars movie. I went and saw it in 2008 when it came out. That was honest to God the first Star Wars movie I ever wanted to get up and walk out of. And so It was that bad to me anyway. And so I ended up not watching Clone Wars, and then
Well, it's completely different than the rest of the movies, so
yeah, exactly. And you know,
you're not wrong to feel that way.
at the time, I wasn't a fan of Anakin having a Padawan, you know, and stuff like that. And because where was she in Episode 3? You know what I mean. And so that story hadn't been fully fleshed out yet. And now, you know, once I found out, wow, those are not in chronological order. Here's the list of what's in chronological order. Watch them in this order. I went back and watched them.
Which I did do
order.
for Clone Wars.
That's
and that
the
was
way to
much
watch
better.
it. That's the way to watch
Much
it is
better.
chronological. It makes way more
Much better.
sense. Because I started watching it and I'm like, weren't they already on Christophsis? Like, isn't that where they started? And then they went to, now they're back? Like, what the hell's going on? And so once I figured out that they were not in chronological order, and I have no idea why they're not in chronological order on Disney Plus. I have no idea why they're not. It doesn't make any sense to me that everything else is in chronological order. Why isn't Clone Wars in chronological order?
Clone Wars, yeah.
Or what I say? Did I say Clone Wars? Or did I say Rebels? I don't remember what I said. But yeah, why isn't
No, Clone Wars, yeah.
Okay, why isn't Clone Wars in chronological order? It just makes sense for it to be that way. So, but yeah, no, this show Bad Batch, I think it's gonna end up being. So I don't know how many seasons it's gonna run, but I promise you, we're getting another season announced next week. They can't leave it the way they did, you know, and so I'm enjoying it. I'm not enjoying as much as I did Clone Wars.
Let me ask you this, actually, talking specifically about Bad Batch.
Yeah.
The Bad Batch unit itself, how important are they? I mean, so we're, in terms of the grander scheme of things, obviously they're not going to change anything in the story, which we already know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, are they, so the point behind the show is not just world building. It's giving us a lot of the details of the politics and the cloning and everything else in the sort of in the back, everything that happened in the background of the Empire. But Bad Batch in itself, where is it going to hit home? Is there something in particular that it does, which, you see, that happened in Trilogy, that was because of Bad Batch, that sort of thing?
Oh,
is that what's going to happen?
So where are the ripples of where are the effects of this show?
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. There are some mentions, especially in this last episode. There were some cameo stuff. There are Easter eggs that were massive Easter eggs. I'll tell you this: Director Krennic is in this episode from Rogue One.
I love Krennic.
Tarkin's in this episode, and so
Tarkin is my favorite.
Tarkin's there. He's holding this meeting with these guys, and they're talking about the cloning thing. They're talking to Dr. Hemlock, who's in charge of the cloning at this point. He's there. Tarkin's there. Krennic is there. And once they get done with the cloning thing, Tarkin turns to Krennic. He's like, all right, now where are we on Project Stardust? You know, and so there's this little mention of the Death Star.
Yes,
and so, but at the time, he's, I think he's Commander Krennic, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's Commander Krennic. He's not director yet. But it's him, and, you know, and so that was kind of cool. Where are we going from here? I don't know. There's this plot going in this season where Rex is trying to help some other clones escape the Empire, because right now in this season they really focused a lot on some of the senators are really trying to appeal for clone rights. Now that the war is over, what do we do with the clones? They're people too. They deserve rights. Do they get pension checks? You know what I mean? Do they get retirement plans? Because what are we going to do for them? They did all this for us, so what are we going to do for them to thank them for their service? And there's other people who are like, they're the property of the Empire now, so we own them. They belong to us. They're just property. So there's all these politics going on. We've seen stormtroopers already being conscripted in this show. They're going from the clones to the actual conscripted stormtroopers, and they're actually Ralph McQuarrie artwork stormtroopers. They look awesome. And so we've seen that, and you know, there's some threads going through. But I talk about the Rex thing because we see Rex in Rebels with some of the other clones kind of hiding out when we find them as old men. When Ahsoka's like, I know somebody, and they go find the clones, right? I'm wondering if we're not going to lead up to that, because Rex is really helping a lot of clones in this season, you know, and he's trying to find other clones and get them out and get them to safety. So that might be one of those threads we end up seeing. The cloning thing, I think, is going to have a lot to do later on, because we're talking about that in the Mandoverse too. During the Mando time period, they're doing a bunch of cloning stuff right now also. So I think that's going to be that little continuous thread that's running underneath everything else all the way up to episode 9 is the cloning thing. So I think there's going to be some stuff in this show that is pertinent later on that affects kind of the outcome of other things later on. But I guess we'll see what it ends up being. Like I said, I don't know how many seasons this is going to end up running, but hopefully we get a couple more seasons out of it. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. You know, it is what it is. You know, not everybody's going to like everything. So this, I think, is going to end up surprising a lot of people. I think it's going to be more important than what we're thinking it is. So
Excellent. Cool. That sounds amazing.
yeah. So that I didn't want to ruin anything for you for Bad Batch.
No, I got it.
You'll
This makes me even more excited to watch it. Honestly,
this last season, I mean, the first part of the season felt like the first season, where it was like every little mission here and there. But once they get to the end and they really start hitting these last couple missions, it really builds up. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. So
nice.
Guys, we've been going for an hour and a half. We just hit the hour and a half mark, man. We just ramble on. I love it when we get together and talk Star Wars and talk about everything else too. So let's wrap this episode up for this week, and we'll get this one out. Next week, I think we're going to try to shoot for a live show. I think we're going to try to shoot for it Thursday night, just so you guys know. I know Thursday night works really well for Usef on recording, 7 p.m. Central.
Yep.
Excuse me, sorry. And I think we're going to shoot for a live show, and I think we're going to talk about what we think is going to be coming, because Celebration starts the very next day. So I think we're going to be talking a little bit more about Celebration. I think we're going to hit the live chat, and we're going to see what you guys have to say about a lot of it. So I'm really looking forward to that episode. Again, I want to reiterate one more time, May 6th, we're going to be doing the 24-hour live stream for raising money to raise awareness for veteran suicide. So mark your calendars for that. We will be giving some Star Wars books to those who donate over a certain amount. And I'm putting those tiers together now. I've been saying that for the last several weeks, but I'm putting the tiers together now to make sure the donations are worth, it's worth getting a book, and we can still raise some money for this cause. So Usef, if you don't have anything else to add, man, I think it's time to sign off. What do you think?
I'm pretty happy with us really getting to talk again. It's been too long, my friend. Really, really too long. We've both had a lot of stuff going on. Really happy to talk this to talk this through again. It's really exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. It's really good to be able to talk about it with you and with everyone listening to us. Of course, please message us in anything that you have beef with, anything that we've said that you don't like. Make sure you tell us about it. We'd love to hear it. And get in touch. Ask any question you like. We've got our own questions which we want to talk about. We'll probably talk about that next week or the week after.
Oh yeah,
we have some stuff as well that we don't talk about. So,
absolutely,
yeah, we always have stuff we want to talk about in Star Wars.
Absolutely, Usef, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I know it's really, really late where you're at. Thanks for staying up with me and talking some Star Wars. And we were going to record last night.
From the future,
right? What's it like in the future? Are there flying cars yet?
It's really dark at the moment.
We were going to record last night, and I had some stuff come up, so I wasn't able to. So thank you for adjusting your schedule to do it tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
But I think we're going to start shooting for a live show on Thursday night. So thank you guys for hanging out with us and talking some Star Wars. Until next week, this is Brian and Usef signing off. May the Force be with you guys. You've just been listening to the latest episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast. I'm Brian Miller, joined by my co-host, Usef Waly. You can stream new episodes of the podcast every Saturday night at FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/1138productions. Be sure to like and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening in on. If you'd like to get a question on the show, you can send it in to us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, keep it civil, and may the Force be with you.